The patron of this year's International Students Festival is Mr. Jakob von Uexküll. He's the founder of the Alternative Nobel Prize and the World Future Council. Why, in your opinion, have you been chosen?
Well, I think the Alternative Nobel Prize has given hope to very many people, also to young people, that there are solutions to the big problems, the big crises and challenges we're facing in the world today. So I assume that is why I was chosen, because I think the most important thing today is to give hope. You know, there are so many negative news around, and I worked now for quite a few years to identify. I see myself as a kind of catalyst to identify projects of hope, as many of the recipients are called. And we have books which have the headline, which are published about this award, and they call "The Solutions Are There." So I think that is probably the main reason. And the World Future Council, of course, is also quite a high profile here in Germany. And the idea that you have an institution which speaks for the needs of future generations, which acts as a voice of future generations, I think is probably also a powerful symbol of inspiration and hope.
What do you expect from the festival?
Well, what I think is fascinating with this festival is, of course, that the students who come here, the participants, have not just chosen to come, by themselves. They have been selected. They have asked to come, but they have been selected according to criteria, which to me include also, potential for leadership. And I think what we need now most of all is to inspire leadership from the young generation. We have, unfortunately, now one or two generations who've been ruling and are ruling the world at the moment, who are showing themselves incapable of providing the necessary leadership. The crises are getting worse and worse. The information about these crises, for example, the climate chaos, has been known for over 30 years. And what is happening is basically ridiculously little. And so, the problem is not that we don't know what to do. The problem is that we're not doing it. And that is why I think that, and bringing together young potential leaders, enabling them to meet with each other, to discuss, not just to inspire each other on the personal level, but also I think to see how interlinked this is. Because another interesting thing about this festival is, of course, how the topics include both the personal and the political. And that, I think, again, is not very common. You have organizations who deal very much with the personal, and others who deal with what you do out there in society. But of course, the two are interlinked, and I see these linkages being very prominent in this festival.
You created the Right Livelihood Award. What were the reasons?
I grew up in a family where we discussed the situation in the world, and I was always interested not just in problems but in solutions. And then when I found there were solutions, I started asking, why are they not taken seriously? And I realized there were lots of books, there were lots of magazines, but if you really want to get taken seriously, it needs more. And so I looked around, and having grown up in Sweden, I saw that when you get a Nobel Prize, then you get taken seriously. And so I wrote to the Nobel Foundation and said, I think, you should introduce a prize for the environment, a prize for human development, because after all, the Nobel Foundation, and one has to realize the Nobel Prize is still the most famous international prize after all these years. And they introduced a new prize, which didn't come from the founder, from Alfred Nobel himself, namely for economics. Now that seemed to me to be a bit one-sided, and that's why I made the proposal for an ecology prize, for a human development prize. And they said no. And so I thought, well, in that case, maybe I should try it myself, because I think it's a good idea. I got lots of positive feedback. And so I decided to create an award, which of course is much smaller than the Nobel Prizes, because I had much less money. But still, I had enough from the sale of my business to get it started. And by presenting it in Stockholm the day before the Nobel Prizes, it of course caused quite a lot of attention. So it was quite negative attention, partly, that it was speculated in the Swedish press the first year whether it was a KGB plot or a CIA plot to discredit the Nobel Prizes, and I was seen as some crazy person. But these things take time, and after 5 years we were invited to present the award in the Swedish Parliament, and of course it has then achieved what I had hoped to, namely given recognition to people who really need it, and protection to them, and funding and support.
How did you finance it?
Well, I had always felt that, if I'm not a very good beggar, so I thought if I have an idea and it costs some money, I need at least to have the starting capital. I also saw that until you get recognized, until you get donations, people to donate to you, you need a certain time. In my experience, it's 5 years. So I sold my business. I had been collecting postage stamps as a hobby. I then started dealing in rare postage stamps, buying and selling them while I was traveling the world, working as a freelance journalist, but the papers I worked for couldn't really pay me very much, so I funded myself. And I had enough money left, when I sold my business. I thought, okay, I can just, continue doing my business and I will at least create this award. Of course, then it took so much time that I was spent, 5 years of basically funding it myself, working on it. And then after 5 years, when we were invited into the Swedish Parliament, we had such a high profile that donations started to come. Interestingly enough, the donations have come mostly from women, mostly from Germany. And we never have enough money in the long run. We are not a huge award. Whenever we got a big donation, we would raise the award money because we felt the problems are here now. So it is not an award like the Nobel Prizes, which has a big endowment capital and just lives of income. But so far we've been able to survive, partly on the interest from what was left of my original donation, but partly from donations coming in every year.
What are the criteria for choosing those who receive the award?
Well, it began very much as an environment prize, but then we found, we have a very democratic structure. Anybody can nominate, can propose anybody except themselves or their own organization for the award. So after some years, we found that there were also other areas which are very important, even areas where there are Nobel Prizes, like economics, because the economics Nobel Prizes only go to a certain category of people. So we have a very broad criteria. We basically say we're looking for exemplary solutions to the most urgent crises and challenges facing humanity today. So if somebody says there is another crisis and here is a solution, then we will look at that. We didn't plan to give an award in medicine, but we found that the medicine Nobel Prizes were only given to one kind of medicine, to modern Western medicine. So we honored the refounder, if you can say so, of classical homeopathy, the Greek George Vitulkas. We found that many solutions for illnesses in poor countries were very sort of high-tech and were unaffordable. And so we found two Ethiopians who developed a natural remedy to a serious tropical disease, and we honored those. We found that solar energy is so important for our future, but no solar energy researcher has ever received a Nobel Prize in physics, for example. So we honored the most successful photovoltaics researcher in the world. But if you look at our recipients, you will find that still the environment, human rights, human development, personal courage are important criteria. Another criteria is sort of a sense of urgency every year. We say, is there somebody, some organization, some individual who really could benefit from the award this year? It might protect their lives, it might save them from imprisonment. There is a very urgent issue. If there is a big conference on the environment one year, we might look at the environment that year. We also look at geography. Sometimes we try to have a very broad spread of recipients geographically. Sometimes we also want to show that there is very important work going on in one country. So one year we had 3 recipients from Ethiopia to show that even in a country which is not so much in the news, there is very good work being done. And also the jury tries every year to have at least one recipient who is a woman or a women-led organization.